Let's turn to Tesla now, whose shares are down about 7% after reporting its first ever annual drop in deliveries. Came in at 1.79 million from 1.81 the prior year. But my next guest is also more focused on what happens on the full self-driving front. And Tesla, they have a few things to work out there as well. He has a hold on the stock and a $360 price target. For more on what to expect, let's bring in William Stein. He's an equity research analyst at Truist. Will, it's great to see you again. And by the way, is there anything with the explosion in Las Vegas that's relevant to the stock before we get into things here?
No, it's just a topic that I'm not really sure how to address or to understand the potential impact. So I'm not going to touch that one.
Oh, for sure. The only subsequent follow-on question is there political risk in the stock now because Musk himself is such a target?
Again, I don't think I've written anything about that, and I'm not sure exactly how to assess it. So I do think, and I've written about how the rise in the stock price since, approximately, late October, November timeframe is very much linked to Musk's relationship with Trump. And I think that's been a big driver of the optimism, not necessarily something that we can easily articulate as to how that relates to fundamentals. But the optimism in the stock, I think, is very much linked to his political relationship with Trump.
Yeah, so there is kind of like political stuff in the stock one way or the other here. So you have a hold on the stock. What were your expectations for the annual delivery number, and what did you think of the number that they came out with?
Oh, it came, a couple percentage points short of consensus, a little bit more, a little bit of a bigger miss relative to our expectations. But this is not, to us, a massive factor in the valuation of the stock. We value Tesla based on a discounted cash flow where the future cash flows of all of the businesses are really what drives the valuation here, not, whether they beat or miss, by 10 or 20,000 vehicle units in any given quarter. This is not a significant factor in our valuation methodology.
Oh, of course. But I think the whole street implicitly understands that whatever the demand is for Tesla today, has a lot to do with what the demand is going to be for them down the road. And then again, if you think that literally the consumer auto ownership story does not matter, and this is all just a binary on Robotaxi, I guess that's a different story.
I think they both matter, right? I mean, to be clear, the deliveries they post and are able to make to buyers are certainly important. There's also a lot of sentimental movement here, right? I mean, this was like a 2% or less, maybe I forget exactly, maybe 1.5% miss on deliveries for a quarter of the year. Does that alone drive 6-7% unwind in the stock price? That's, I would argue there's more into it. People perhaps exaggerate the meaning of these things and just sort of, that momentum, gets rolled forward a little bit. I think perhaps our, latest review of FSD, revealing some still weak areas of the technology may be a part of the factor here as well.
I mean, I'd be happy to play up the significance of this because to me it actually is quite telling, especially on the day that BYD comes out. And I think they regained the crown from Tesla as the biggest EV seller for maybe the second time now. So your Tesla, you have three models. You have a sedan, you have an SUV, you have the Cybertruck out there. That's fine. You have Chinese competition who has dozens of models, innovates way more than you do, is less expensive in many ways for the consumer, is making inroads all over China, was the star of Europe and China, is the star of the European Auto Show last fall. I mean, that's a lot of competition to be up against.
Certainly. I think this is why there's such a heavy focus on China for Tesla and Elon Musk personally, that focus on the innovation there as the sort of gold standard for how they need to compete globally is really important to Musk and to Tesla. And I think we're going to continue to see innovation from the company try to meet the pace of what they see in China, much more so than what they see in the West, which is, I think, far more challenged from an innovation perspective, broadly speaking, but then also specifically as it relates to full self-driving.